Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's StarLIVE session. I'm Lydia from Star Media Group, and we are really excited to see everyone here today. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to give a brief introduction of what StarLIVE is all about. In a bid to connect with our readers, Star Media Group presents an exciting array of talk sessions covering various topical matters of interest, from guides to leading a healthier lifestyle, to meet and greet sessions with personalities. For today's session, we have with us Dr. Chee Leong, Chief Executive Officer of Help Education Services and President of the Malaysian Psychological Association. Today's talk is an extension of the Stand Together Bullying Prevention campaign, jointly organized by RAGE and SP Setia, with the aim of creating an annual National Kindness Week in schools every first week of April. Our guest speaker will be sharing with us on how we can overcome bullying by building a culture of kindness and spot telltale signs that your child is being bullied. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the session, there will be a Q&A opportunity with our guest speaker. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Gore to the stage.
Very good morning, everybody. I want to begin by, again, recording my thanks to SP Setia and Star. I think the RAGE team has done a wonderful job in this campaign, and it's very, very refreshing and encouraging for me to see how much work has been done to help improve the situation when it comes to bullying. We were doing work about 17, 18 years ago in Malaysian schools. And I can tell you at that time it was very, very challenging to get attention and traction to try to move things along. So it's really so refreshing to see how many parties have come together to work together to improve things in schools for our children. The topic that I've been asked to share about is how we create a culture of kindness. And I think the Stand Together campaign is based on this philosophy and principle that by creating a culture of kindness, you reduce bullying. And I think this is very important because often we talk about being anti-bullying. We don't want bullying to take place. We want to reduce bullying. But you need to replace that culture with something else, you see. You can't take away without replacing it. And that's really the key. So I want to share some ideas with all of you. I see many parents around. I'm a father myself of 2 children. I know all of us share a lot of concern about the school environment that our children are growing up in. I think all of us want our children to enjoy their childhood, to enjoy school, to be able to go to school every day without fear, and not be scared, concentrate on their studies, discovering new things about themselves, enjoy their relationship with their friends. So we want them to have joy and happiness in their life. And so I'm going to share some ideas about what we can do as a community, as parents, as educators, to create this culture of kindness. All right? Now, the way I've structured the talk is, at the beginning, I'm going to say a few words about what bullying is so that all of us have a clear understanding of what bullying is, what causes bullying, why people bully, what are some of the effects of bullying. So that's part one, so that all of us have a better understanding of what bullying is and why does it occur. Part two, I'm going to then give some suggestions, some practical action points that we can take back with us. So as parents, what can we do to help our children? But also, if you're involved in the community, if some of you are community leaders, what you can do in your schools and communities. Right? I think the goal is, if everybody ends the session today and can take back 1 or 2 practical ideas, then we've accomplished our mission today. All right? So let's make a start. So I define bullying first, and this is important so that we don't confuse bullying with other issues and phenomena. So there are 2 conditions that need to be met for us to classify behavior as bullying behavior. One is it's intentional, so it's on purpose. All right? It's not, it's not by accident. All right? So if I'm playing football, accidentally go and hit somebody in the face because I didn't see them, we don't call that bullying. All right? The intent needs to be there. So the motive, intent, the lawyers will say the intention needs to be there. So I know what I'm doing. I'm doing this, the goal is I want to hurt you. I want to harm you. I want to humiliate you. I want to tease you. I want to make you feel bad about yourself, right? So the motive needs to be clear, right? The second thing is that it involves what we call a power imbalance, which means that it's not a confrontation between two egos. So I mean, if me and another boy, my same age, same size, we are fighting, that one we just call fighting. That's a fight. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but you don't classify that under bullying. That one is two equals, two groups, two gangs. That one is a different disciplinary issue. Bullying, we must understand, is very unique because there's a power imbalance. So that means because I'm 15 years old and you're 9 years old, I am bigger, I'm 5 feet, you're 3 feet, okay, then I fight you. Now we call that the power imbalance. Or numerics, 10 of us versus 1 of you, and usually that's the case, So more. So we have the power of numbers or age, or in the case later on when we talk about social bullying or cyberbullying, it could be intelligence. I'm smarter than you, I'm faster than you, I'm more articulate than you, better at words, isn't it? Especially with teasing. So I'm better at words. So I make fun of you, you cannot answer back. And so the idea of this is that there is an imbalance that is taking place here. And this is important. So this distinguishes bullying from other forms of fighting or behavior. Right? And this is what makes bullying so difficult to handle, So that's why it's not so easy to just go back to your children and say, hey, you fight back, Because usually, in most bullying instances, I cannot fight back, I'm not in a position because, it's not between two people of equal standing. 1 versus 10 is very difficult. I think all of us will agree. I mean, how to fight back, Or if it's cyberbullying, me versus 100 silent, anonymous trolls. How to fight back? I've nothing to fight back against. So it's very difficult. So with that in mind, all right, we understand that there are many different forms of bullying. Now, of course, what's been highlighted over the last year has been very extreme cases of physical bullying. So you've got real danger. As we know, there are tragedies that have happened in the country over the last year. People have died. Boys and girls have suffered serious physical injuries as a result of physical bullying. Now, this is the most, most visible because you can see it. I can have a picture of it. Viral videos. A lot of people ask me, why is it that more physical bullying is happening now? What is wrong with our society? Is our society descending? And look, I want to say there is no research evidence that indicates physical bullying is becoming more common. It's just that when we were growing up, there was no YouTube or handphones, So it's not as though maybe that's the good news. It's not as though human beings are becoming more evil, right? It's just that in those days, how to capture? You get bullied, It's just word of mouth. And of course, all of us have stories, I think all of us, most of us here, if we are honest, including myself, we have instances where we cannot bully before. We've been on the receiving end. And if we are also very, very honest, there are instances where we also were bullies. Whether in our family, whether, during Chinese New Year, Hari Raya, when all the relatives were in the house, and you were put in charge of the younger kids, or whether in school. So all of us have been on both sides of the ledger, right? So physical bullying, most common, can see, push, shove. And of course it varies between very, more minor forms, to very, very severe, where serious injuries and maybe even death, people go to hospital, right? But it's by no means the most common. Most common form of bullying is social bullying. Social bullying is we tease you until you cry. We make fun of you. We exclude you, all right? So all of the gang, all of our friends, we don't want to accept you. We go to birthday party, don't invite you. And this is quite organized. It's not just one group, We make sure you are the one sitting alone in the canteen. So we call this social exclusion. You're all alone. And all of the different cliques, organize themselves. Hey, don't ask him, don't invite him. Or don't invite her because, he or she is the new kid in the school or the odd one or the freak. So somebody has to be the target, So social bullying, not physical, not a single hair on your head is harm, but very hurtful. In fact, when you look at the research we did, with UNICEF about 8-9 years ago, when you interview, a lot of children say, I prefer being punched, man. At least punch, I can see who is punching me. Not to say that's pleasant, but a lot of the students will report, at least I know, I can feel the pain. Whereas in this case, who are my enemies? I also don't know. Who are passing rumors about it? Why nobody want to talk to me? All of this is, whispering campaigns. And so I feel very small. I feel very isolated. I feel very lousy about myself. And of course, I mean, again, when we were growing up, 60s, 70s, 80s, I mean, we went through the same thing. I mean, the insults have changed. The words people use have changed. But I think the same dynamic is there, which is people are targeted, isn't it? In the school playground, always somebody is targeted. And they are, they are easy targets, and we are very cruel to these people. So we call them, this social bullying. Right? So calling names, talking about you behind your back. Now, of course, in the last 15 years, social bullying has taken on a more powerful platform. A more threatening platform. So cyberbullying has become very common. I mean, the internet and technology has brought us a lot of wonderful things, but unfortunately, this is one of the not so good things it has brought us. And the issue here is that really now, remember earlier I said, a lot of people who go through social bullying say, well, the problem is I don't know where my enemy is. I don't know who is spreading the rumors. I don't know who are my friends and not my friends. All these bad things that people are saying around me. But in cyberbullying, this is even worse because they're completely invisible. And of course, in some forms, you know who they are because they actually tell you, I'm your classmate, I think you're lousy, or you're stupid, why don't you just go and die? But in many cases, the trolls, as we call them, right, the people who are trolling our children, they are invisible. They use anonymous terms. In many cases, they are adults. Some high-profile cases in America and Europe, in the end, it wasn't another 15 or 16-year-old, it was an adult, 25-year-old, 30-year-old neighbor that was trolling a 15-year-old boy or girl. So I think what makes cyberbullying, in a sense, more frightening is the fact that it's invisible, And how do you escape it? I mean, we train our children, to say, okay, look, if somebody is punching you, walk away, go and find a teacher. If somebody is teasing you, you can walk away. Cyberbullying, how do you walk away? So of course we say, okay, turn off social media. Close your account and this and that. But you understand, it's not so easy to walk away from because it's in cyberspace. So many of the children say, but they're still talking about me. Mom, I mean, I still feel lousy. I mean, I may not be physically there, but all of this pictures, words are there for everybody to see. So how do I feel? These horrible things they're saying about me. So it's that kind of dynamic, isn't it? So cyberbullying is more pervasive and also easier to do. I mean, the old form of bullying, at least you have to look you straight in the face. I call you a bad name also, at least I look you in the eye. In cyberbullying, I don't need to be there. I can be in a room somewhere else. So more cowardly. Easier to attack without consequences. But of course now, thank goodness there are ways to track. So a lot of these high-profile cases, people can track. They can track the account, the Skype account, the Twitter account, the Instagram account, to find out who exactly is doing this. But I mean, this is, I think, certainly a threat and something that we need to be careful of. All right. So what is the impact of bullying? I guess this is the question of why is this a big deal? Why has Rage and Star and SP Setia and many other companies come together and say we need to do something about it? I mean, I think this is very important because it has consequences. Now, many of us look around and we say, well, hey, we survived what? We are okay. We are still alive. You and me, We are all adults. I'm talking about the adults here, right? When we are in our 50s, 40s, 60s, I mean, we are okay. In fact, some people even look back and say, yeah, maybe it was a bit good for us because now, see, I'm stronger now, Which, by the way, is the last thing you want to tell your child if they're being bullied, Builds character, go and, see, look at me. See, Papa is strong because, I mean, and look, I think that may very well be so, that adversity and challenges obviously shape us. All of us have scars, we say. All of us, we wear our scars of battle, bullying and other issues we went through in life. But I mean, oftentimes we are here and we are thriving in spite of it, not so much because of it. I look back at my own childhood. I mean, my family moved around a lot. So the reason why I was bullied was because we were moving around. So I was always the new child, always the new student. And the problem was we moved here in Malaysia and outside also, so I never spoke the local language one. So of course kena lah, right, because I was never able to speak the local dialect or the local language, so of course easy target, So I look back now and realize, yeah, okay, I survived it, I'm still okay, But there are so many things in my school life that I think could have been better. I think I could have been a better student. I think I've learned lot more things. I think I could have developed a lot more ideas and talents and tried new things in sports and music and art. you know, and one of the reasons that held me back was because of this, you know, that I was embarrassed, I was ashamed, often I was the outsider, didn't dare do this and that. So you could argue, yeah, I survived. But you know, I mean, I think as a human being, I could have been a lot more, you know, whether you call it talented or well-developed or happier when I was growing up, you know, if not for the bullying. So again, I mean, it's good all of us survive, but it doesn't mean that this is a reason to turn the other way when our children are going through this experience. And we shouldn't underestimate it. These are some examples of the consequences in long term of victims of bullies, right? So I show the victims first. So of course, things like low self-esteem. You know, most of the time, if you remember when we were being bullied, we don't go back and tell the whole wide world. In fact, usually we don't tell our parents. Remember? Why? Because why? Why not tell parents? Why not tell my friends? Because I feel embarrassed. You know, and that's the irony, you know. I think it's my fault. Even though, of course, it's not my fault. You know, it's the bully's fault. They are the ones who targeted me, usually for no reason. You know, we didn't do anything to deserve it. But the natural reaction, which doesn't make sense or logic, is I take it on board. So I think, hey, it's my fault. Maybe I am so stupid. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe there's something wrong with me. And you feel embarrassed, isn't it? Both male and female, we feel, you know, we are not strong enough. So I don't want to tell my friends or parents because it's a vulnerability. It's a, you know, I'm admitting I'm weak to get bullied. So we don't want to tell, you know. So this self-esteem, self-worth, of course we suffer. And many of us, for many years, we have still not told anybody actually. Until now, many of us here have stories that we are very embarrassed about. But of course, I mean, you think about, why should you be embarrassed? There's nothing for you to be embarrassed about. There's nothing for you to be ashamed of. It wasn't your fault. So in case you didn't know, let me tell you again, it wasn't your fault. You know? And so we need to be free of this. But this self-esteem, all right? So that's one. Embarrassment, social withdrawal, poor academics. Why? Because how to concentrate on your studies if every day you're just trying to survive school? Isn't it? Every day you're worried about, you know, of course, this depends on the form of bullying, you know. But there are many cases where there's a drop. So one of the things we tell parents is one of the signs you look for is there's a sudden change in academic performance of your child. Because how, you know, my mind is not on science or math. My mind is on, hey, afterwards in recess, why am I going to run, all right, you know? After school, what am I going to do? How to go home? Last time, you know, I mean, I was in KL, Chinatown, my school is, you know, MBS KL. Come back always 2-3 times a week will get extorted, right? On average, you know, because you have to walk down to Klang bus stand, you know. Sure kena. And everybody, all the bystanders are all looking and nobody will help you, you know. So they'll just come and take your pocket money. So when you're worried about that, how to concentrate on, I want to develop myself, I want to learn, I want to explore, you know, right? So antisocial behavior, I mean, in fact, what I think the Rage video talks about this. A lot of victims of bullies become bullies themselves. It becomes a cycle. See, violence, one of the main ideas I want you to take away from today's session is this. This is the one truth in psychology, in life, whatever your religious background and beliefs, this is the one truth. Violence begets violence. Violence leads to more violence. Evil leads to more evil. Hurt leads to more hurt. That's the way the world works. We pass it along. So whether it is, you know, with domestic abuse, child abuse, bullying, any psychologist will tell you usually the cycle will repeat. So when I'm bullied myself, you know, a lot of times then, hey, I got bullied by my senior, so your turn now. Now I'm a senior, my turn, all right, you know. So all this lepaskan geram, all of this, you know. Now I'm not saying all of us become bullies, but this cycle is very common. We call this the bully victim cycle. So I'm being a victim and at the same time I'm bullying. And many people, they are experiencing it at the same time, you know. So 2 p.m. they get bullied, you know, 3 p.m. they're bullying somebody else. They pass along the rage and the anger. And this may lead to even more serious antisocial behavior. Means things like delinquentism, punteng sekolah, you know, starting to rip out public phones, you know, scratch cars, you know, I mean, it moves into that cycle because of the hurt and the anger and the frustration I feel. Social withdrawal, I don't want to have friends anymore, you know, so I'm especially in cyberbullying, so I don't trust anybody else. I don't want to be friends with anybody. I'm not close with anybody, which of course makes things worse, you know. So they withdraw, fear, anxiety, stress, depression, and of course in very severe cases, even suicide. I mean, there are many cases. I mean, the internet is full of tragedies. There's a case in Canada, 15-year-old girl called Amanda Todd, you know. This is 2012, cyberbullying. She was trolled by a group of people. Eventually, they found out the person who started this was a 30-year-old man who posed as a teenager. And she shifted schools a few times. At first school, so he will enter the group, talk to her friends, spread rumors about her. She was tricked into putting photos of her, you know, naked photos of her. So he took it, put it on the internet. They moved school. He found out where her school was. Same thing happened again. Influenced all of the friends. So she felt isolated, you know. I mean, so she did a YouTube video before she killed herself, before she hanged herself, you know. And the YouTube video became viral after she died, you know. And she basically tells the story, there are about 30, you know, clips. But, you know, I mean, so people were, these were schoolmates who were saying, you know, I hope she reads this. I hope she reads this post and kills herself. You know, I think the next, the next card is the most heartbreaking. You know, I mean, I have nobody. I have nobody in my life. There's nobody in the school that likes me. I have no friends. Completely isolated, you know. And of course, in severe cases like that, of course, it can lead to severe depression, you know, and eventually, in this case, tragic suicide. And this is not the only case. There are many stories like that. Many, many stories. And so I think that's why this campaign is so important. That's why I've got a, you know, I've got a personal, you know, conviction about this. You know, this is an issue. And unless we change our culture in our schools, our families, our communities, our offices, we have to change. This is a whole cultural change, you know. It's a change from might makes right. If I can do it, I can get away with it, then I do it. To a culture where we say, hey, look, we are kind, we respect one another, we look after one another. So unless there's a cultural shift, you know, there are going to be more cases like this, right? So, terrible, terrible tragedy. Okay, what about for the bully? The students who bully, there's also consequences. So in a sense, there are two victims here. So the people who bully also, low self-esteem, drug addiction, you know, all of this is research, all right? That has been done not just in Malaysia but around the world. So higher chance of addiction later on in life. You know, it may not be immediate, but when they're 18, 19, 20, substance abuse, alcoholism, academic failure and dropout rates are a lot higher, you know, among people who are in this, maybe even criminal behavior in the future. Alienation, loneliness. Why? Because at some point they realize, I mean, look, people who bully when they are young, there may be some payoffs. They realize I'm very powerful, I can do what I want. But over time, they realize nobody wants to be friends with a bully. You see? Over time, they realize the people's skills and the, you know, social skills, they don't have. In university, in work, you know, most companies and organizations don't want to hire people like that. They don't want to work with people like that. So you see, what worked for them, maybe when they're 14, 15 years old, you know, that strategy of, hey, I shout loud, push everybody around, bully everybody, doesn't work in most settings. Now, of course, some of you are having that look at me and say, no, my boss is a bully, you know, or I'm a bully, or get things done. Okay, exceptions rather than the case, let me just say, right, you know. Because especially now in today's working culture, most of this behavior is not tolerated anymore. Most of it, you do a 360, you know, they'll be kicked out of the company almost immediately. Because it's not tolerated. So you see, the problem with these people is they will not learn to connect with other human beings in a proper way, in a healthy way. So many of them have relationship issues their whole life, right? Because of this bullying. And you may argue about they get their way, but yeah, but are they ever happy? Because does anybody want to be with a bully? Does anybody really love a bully? Does anybody really want to be close or intimate with a bully? You understand? So they are victims as well. Because they've been reinforced, allowed to get away with this behavior when they're young. And nobody stopped them and say, hey, look, this is not the way. This is not acceptable behavior. And nobody correct. And I know many of us who were bullies, the reason why we're not bullies anymore, somebody had to stop us, isn't it? Whether it's a parent or a teacher or principal or somebody, or maybe even the first boss you had when you started work, and somebody had to say, look, this is not acceptable behavior. And this is not the way to be successful. You don't need to be like that to have friends. You don't need to be like that to be popular. You don't need to be like that to get things done. There's a better way. Let me teach you a better way. Right? So, so there are consequences, serious consequences for the bullies themselves. Why do children bully? Many, many reasons. I remember in the Rage video, I mentioned that there's not one kind of bully. There are many types of bullies. And so I might bully for different reasons. Maybe I just want attention, because I bully, everybody laughs, so I'm very popular. Right? I tease, so I'm the life of the party. A lot of movies, that's the theme. You look at all of the US high school movies, basically all of them have bullying. And the heroes are the ones who are bullying because it's just a practical joke, that kind of thing. And so that kind of culture becomes embedded. Right? Peer pressure, I didn't want to bully. I also felt very guilty, but what to do? Everybody else was shouting at this fella. So I don't shout also, then I also get ostracized. And I want to be in the group. Of course, in more dangerous situations, they say, hey, the gang was all beating him. If I don't join in, I will be the next victim. So I have to join, what to do? So peer pressure, And it's very difficult. I mean, it takes a lot of moral courage for a student, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, to stand up and say, no, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, now those are the exceptional leaders, isn't it? You have people like that, 12, 13, 14 years old, who have the moral courage to stand up and say no. But very rare. I mean, and let's be honest, it's not easy to do that. So we go with the flow, we go with the flow. We do whatever other people want. Social status, prejudice, this is troubling. So some people are targeted because different race, different religion, different country, talk a bit funny, different dialect, different gender, So sometimes the root cause of the bullying is we just don't like different people. This school, you're a bit different from us, you kena, right? It could be modeling. A lot of what they see on television, they say, it's okay, what? Then in this story, the hero bullies. They get away with it in the end, happily ever after. So why shouldn't I? Outlet for frustration. Now this is the most common. A lot of, what I'm arguing is a lot of bullying takes place because I'm very angry myself. Because I am having, and when you look at the stories of a lot of people who bully, especially the serial bulliers, not just once or twice, every day, every week, when you look at their life, when the teachers actually sit down with them and say, okay, tell me about yourself. Let's forget about the bullying for a while. You tell me. There are challenges in their life. Some of them have been abused at home. Some of them are ignored. Some of them, there's a lot of resentment, a lot of hurt. Like I said earlier, some of them have been bullied themselves. Some of them are still being bullied every day. So a lot of this anger, hatred, frustration needs to go somewhere. All right? So lepaskan geram lah, like I said, they need to let out steam somewhere. So they find the victim. Narcissistic, some bullies, narcissistic means very self-centered lah. Everybody look at me, I'm the center of the whole universe, I only care about myself, don't care about any of you. And in some cases, even entertainment or boredom. All right? Now I haven't put it here, but there are some bullies also that are very severe. I mean, there are some psychopathic, sociopathic tendencies where they may not feel guilty, and so they hurt other people and they don't feel bad. But these are reasons why people bully. So before I talk a little bit about what we can do to reduce and stop this culture, change this culture, I want to review again why this is so important for schools. I mean, no tolerance for bullying is important in all aspects of our society. Our workplace, our families, schools. But today we want to focus on schools. And why? Because number one, now as a developmental psychologist, I can tell you, the brain is actually designed to soak in information. We call this intellectual curiosity. It's one of my favorite terms in the whole of the English language. Intellectual curiosity means I'm curious about the world. And you see this in very young children. 1, 2-year-old children, you put them in a room, and this is a beautiful place. You put them in a room like this, they will start to explore. You don't need to push them. They will run here, they'll go and look at the water feature at the back, they'll go up the stairs, they'll come here. Younger kids, they touch things, hold things. To our horror as parents, they put things in their mouth. Go and, try this and that. But these are reflections of a brain that is designed to soak in information. Meaning human beings by nature are interested about their world, you see. And you don't need to motivate, no need exams, no need to give bonus marks, no need to incentivize in any way. By nature, I'm telling you, children are born with a brain that is interested because we call this self-mastery, a mastery over the environment. They want to understand. So that's why 3, 4 years old, they drive you crazy with all kinds of questions. Papa, Mommy, why is the sun round? Why is the moon red? Why is all kinds of things, isn't it? Why this? Why electricity like that? And after a while, we also, I don't know, just go and look at the internet, all right, Wikipedia. Right? Most of the answers we also have no idea. But this is good. We say this is all good science. Now my question is this, so what happened, right? From that moment when they are born with this motivation, natural motivation to understand the world, and then somewhere in between school life, this is killed. And I think this is one of the issues. So in order to learn, you need an environment where I feel safe. An environment where I can concentrate on discovery and imagination and focusing on whether science, math, geography, history, all of these interesting things. So I want to focus on these things. But I can't do it when I'm afraid. Fear and discovery are two opposing emotions. So when you're afraid, you can't discover. What happens is your mind closes up. It goes on self-survival mode. So the mind is no longer open to new ideas, open to learning. So this is an academic, educational argument. You want good results, you want children to learn, you want your schools to be full with the next Nobel Prize winners, next CEOs, then you have to make it a safe place. And of course, bullying is one issue, but other aspects as well. It needs to be a place where children are not scared to go to school. When children are scared to go to school, something is wrong. And we need to then ask ourselves, what do we need to change the environment? School should be a place where kids on Monday morning are dying to go. That should be a school. Because so many, I can discover my talents, meet my friends, explore. Every subject is something that, like I say, invites me to create and explore, right? So all of this throw away. If it's a bully environment, then forget about all of that. Not possible. Okay? Number one. Number two, I've always believed schools should not be a reflection of the real world. I know a lot of us talk about, school should be the real world, man. Come on, real world training. Maybe I'm a bit more of an idealist. I think schools and universities should be a reflection of what we want the world to be in the future. Because these are the people that are going to lead. I mean, we all believe that one, We all believe. I mean, the 10-year-olds, the 12-year-olds, our children who are here, they are going to be the next leaders, the next generation. So do we want them to repeat the same cycle? So just because, the world is bullying, so therefore we should introduce some bullying in the school. Let it happen a bit, I mean, they are, as the next leaders of society, have an opportunity to create a culture that is better than us, better than what I've experienced. So to me, that should be the aspiration of a school. That it models what, in this case, what Malaysia can be. So when we talk about, we should respect one another, we should celebrate differences, don't prejudice, we should, always be kind, compassionate society. All of this starts when, it can't be, you suffer in school, come out, then change the world. They have no point of reference, they have no experiences to fall back on. So in a sense, the school should be an opportunity to model what society should be like. And that's my second reason why then we should deal with this issue of bullying. All right, so what can we do? Very quickly. I've divided this part into two parts. First part, what can we do to help children who are victims of bullying? So I mean, if we suspect our children or our students or people we know are victims of bullying, what can we do? So I've characterized this in terms of shifts. Shifts meaning transformation, change. All right, because the key word today is we have to change something. If we keep doing things the same way over and over again, nothing is going to change. So what needs to shift? What mindset needs to shift? So there are 4 shifts that we as parents and educators can do. And those of you who are children here, I mean, students here, teenagers here, I mean, these are shifts you can see in your own life. So number 1, we need to shift the culture of blame to understanding. See, one of the first responses sometimes when you're told, oh, my child is being bullied, first response is, I don't believe. Can't be my child. Happened to somebody else. Second response is, sometimes, I'm not saying we all do that, but sometimes we blame the child. So we go, what do you do? Why do you get bullied? Where were you? Did you say something nasty? Did you go and provoke somebody? So sometimes we're very quick to react and blame. Even those of us who are very understanding and we tell ourselves, don't blame, don't blame. Sometimes I think on an unconscious, subconscious level, we project a lot of the anger and frustration that we feel about the situation. So we may not blame the child, but we are thinking, hey, but why is this happening to our family? Of all the families, why is our family the one that this is happening? So we are feeling a bit angry, irritated. Why is this happening to me? And somehow I've got other things in my life to worry about, work, all that. This one, tambah salah. So we are feeling a bit edgy. And without knowing it, sometimes, so when your child comes and shares with you, look, Papa, Mummy, this is happening to me. If we are not careful, this feeling of irritation and anger, channel to them, meaning we direct to them. So in the questions we ask, we are a bit irritable, we are a bit angry. The message we're sending them is, hey, something must have been wrong with you, right, for this to happen. Why? Is it you're weak? Is it you're quiet? Is it, why is this happening to you? So I think we need to move from that. Because, as I mentioned earlier, it's not the victim's fault. The people who are getting bullied, in most cases, they have done nothing to deserve this. So we need to move from here to empathy and companionship. Empathy meaning, let me try to understand the best I can what you're going through. So let me listen. Let me, you share. So what are you going through? Okay, so I didn't know, you're being bullied. You're having a tough time in school. Can you tell me, so what is going on? So of course, different conversations for 5-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old, I'm just modeling, So for the teenager, of course, we are talking to them more like adults. Okay, tell me, look, up to you to tell me. I'm interested if I can help in any way. All right, let me know what is going on. And it's about empathizing. Like we say you journey with them. So you're not there to give advice or anything straight away, but the most important thing is so that they know that the people I love the most and the people I respect the most, my parents, understand what I'm going through. That's number one, step one. That is already, that will be very helpful already. Because remember, most of them are going through, whether it's cyberbullying, this and that. Their feeling is nobody understands me. Nobody knows what is going on. So if the parents also don't understand, you think about it. So the two people that are supposed to be the ones supporting me, lagi go and, whack some more, play me some more. So how do I feel, And by the way, just to tell you already was very difficult. You think about it, most of us didn't tell our parents when we were being bullied, We, like I said, too much shame or embarrassment. So the fact that your child already can say to you, that, hey, look, this is happening, is very difficult. So you want to treat that information with a lot of sensitivity. So don't go and whack so much, Your job is to sit and understand. And of course, you might be very angry at the bully. Let's go right now, right? Tell me his house, whack him up. Right? So all of this later, for the first step is you need to empathize. So they need to get the message that, okay, I understand. And I know it's difficult. I'm so sorry this is happening. I'm really so sorry. So I feel it. Papa, I feel sad. I feel angry. So I'm journeying with you. So you don't need to feel alone. And it's not unnatural. So yeah, you're feeling frustrated. You're feeling embarrassed. Hey, look, I completely understand. So it's allowing them space to go through those natural emotions, which, hey, we also went through when we were young. So nothing different, Without downplaying them. Yeah, small thing only lah. You worry about what? Or, why you embarrassed about what? Dr. Goh say no need to be embarrassed, so don't be embarrassed lah. So I didn't say, right? This is how we deal with it, all right? So the way we have to deal with it is, look, I completely understand. If you put me in the same position, honestly, I will feel the same way. So it's okay. All of these anger, frustration, you want to whack somebody, I don't do it, but the feelings you're feeling are very natural. So that's the message I want to send you and give you room to do that, all right? So that, you don't go, hey, look, hey, but smile when you come to the dining table afterwards, all right? Because I want a happy family. I want everybody to be smiling and happy all the time. So that's not, once you have this information, that's not realistic anymore, So that's why I say give them space, Of course, they're going to feel lousy, and difficult, and it's frustrating. So don't expect that to be, okay, I give you a pep talk, now Papa talk to you, okay, happy already, all right? It's not like a button you can press. Like I say, you think back to your own experiences, my own experiences, where I got like that one, It took us a long time. So you journey with them so that they don't feel alone. Number two, from this feeling of worthlessness, and so this is what they're feeling. I'm lousy, I'm nobody, maybe I'm really so stupid, everybody don't like me, something is wrong with me. And how do we move this to a position where they have a healthy sense of self-esteem. And again, parents and teachers, you play a very powerful role, because people listen to you. And your children listen. I mean, you and your children may disagree about a lot of things. And you may fight with your teenager every week, but let me tell you, they respect you and they love you very much. And what you say makes a big difference. So reaffirming that self-worth that, hey, look, I know, all of these horrible things that are happening to you in school. And these lousy fellas are bullying you and saying bad things about me, but I cannot take all of that away, but I just want to tell you this one thing, you never ever forget your papa loves you very much again. And you're important to us, and you're an important part of this family. And I know that may not make a change in the school, so I'm not saying that all this information will change. So you still have a difficult time in school, but I want to tell you this, here, your friends may not see the value in you, but we see it. And that is important for you to understand. Right? And look, the whole identity as a person is not defined just because you're a victim. I mean, like I said, all of us were victims of bullying before, but I mean, we don't label ourselves a victim for life. That's not how we define ourselves. We define ourselves in terms of your talent, your personality, the careers, the jobs, all of the wonderful things you have done as a father, as a mother. So when you think about your identity, who am I? Hey, I'm not just a victim of being bullied, Just because some lousy kids in school treat me bad, doesn't mean my whole life is lousy. So how do I get a better perspective and realize that one experience or these experiences don't define me as a person? I can define myself. All right? So that's important. So when I say I'm more than this experience, is you're trying to reinforce, remind your children, hey, you're so much more than this. You're wonderful in sports. You're good in your studies. You've got friends outside. So some of your friends may be cruel, but not all of your friends are like that. So think of a bigger picture. You are not what they say. Just because they say you're stupid doesn't mean you're stupid. Just because they say you're weird doesn't mean you're weird. They don't get to define you. You understand or not? We define ourselves. And that is the most important thing. Then you give them control and power, which brings me to my next part. I think the really difficult thing about being a victim of bullies is control gets taken away from you. It's the same thing with abuse. It's the same thing with bullying. You feel helpless. I think that's the really most difficult. I feel I cannot do anything, I'm there, Papa, Mommy, what to do? I mean, I'm there, cyberbullying, people don't like me, people say bad things about me, people push me around, people take my lunch money. I feel so helpless. And I think the third shift is, how do we help our children move from here, I cannot do anything, I'm powerless, to a position where they say, okay, look, I may not be able to control everything, but there are some things, I can do, I'm not completely helpless. I'm not completely powerless. The bullies don't have the power to take away all options away from me. I have choices that I can make. There are things I can do. So for example, this is where, now there are a lot of resources. I think the RAGE team has also worked on videos, online resources that you can go and look through their website. We've helped put together some really good materials. I'll give you a few examples. So depending on the age and situation, right? So what kind of bullying is taking place, how old is your child? But there are always things you can do. So this is about the parent being the coach. So rather than scolding your child, just do something, go and fight back. Right? Or why are you so sad all the time? We need to move away from that to, okay, come, let's brainstorm a bit. So this is like working with your colleagues in your workplace. Let's focus on the issue, not the emotion. Let's focus on the issue. So what are some things? Okay, tell me a bit more about, when do they bully you and which part of the school? When? Recess time? Before school? Okay, so let's brainstorm together. What are things you can do, firstly, to prevent? So let's say if it's physical bullying, 8-year-old go and get, beaten up every day in the canteen. So are there certain places maybe you avoid? If it happens again, can you go to a teacher? Who are the teachers? Okay, who are the teachers you trust? Who are the people who will defend you? Where can you eat? What time can you So all of these are very practical things that you can do. So we talk practical action or cyberbullying. Okay, if this is taking place, now I would say if it's very serious cyberbullying, then parents should get involved immediately. It's not something you can just say, okay, you go and fight back, If it's happening in the school environment, report it to the school immediately. And that's, of course, part of the RAGE campaign. We are training schools, empowering principals in terms of standard operating protocols, what they need to do, giving them resources so that the schools also are better at responding. But I can tell you, I mean, certain levels of bullying, you can't ask your child to go and fight back, you know. 10 against 1, get beaten every day. I mean, that's not something that they can just avoid. That's something that as a parent, you have got to go and talk to the principal immediately and say, okay, what are we doing? And these are the perpetrators and we need to take action. But of course, more mild forms of bullying, you may say, okay, I think this one I can train my son and daughter to learn to deal with it. Because this is a good learning opportunity as well. So they are being teased, there's some minor pushing, you know, they go and steal the lunchbox, go and hide it because all the friends think it's a very nice practical joke, but they don't think it's very funny. Okay, in these incidences, no threat to life, all right? It's not so serious that, you know, anybody's going to be hurt, but it's a good opportunity then to teach my son and daughter, okay, let's think. If you're in that circumstances, okay, what is the action plan? What can you do? Go and talk to a teacher? Stand up, you know, so tell them, hey, look, it's not funny anymore. You know, guys, I don't like you playing around in my stuff. Confront them, you know. So this is about sitting down, like I say, as a parent and going through options with your child. So this is problem-solving skills. Very, very important, right? And if possible, if it's minor cases of bullying, it's a good practice to give them an opportunity to try to solve it. So if it's minor cases, you know, not all the time parents should go and get involved, right? Because this is a good opportunity to them. But if you feel that the child cannot handle it already, they've already tried, then of course, by all means, you know, and through the school. So don't go and, you know, directly go and scold another child or beat another child or whatever it is. You know, I've heard cases of that as well. I mean, so it's not vigilante justice, you know. It's modeling for your children what needs to be done, right? So, but this is important. So the child here then has a sense of control. So they don't feel so helpless, hopeless, frustrated, anxious anymore. So this will reduce the stress level tremendously. If they feel, okay, hey, thank you, Papa, okay, at least now I know, if this happens, I'm not helpless. There are 3-4 things that I can do. And you've also given me some tips of how to avoid. So maybe certain places in the school, I don't go, you know. And I need to get my own team of friends and, okay, thank you, very, very useful tips. So this is important, okay. Number 4, hopelessness to hopefulness. Now, when we talk about suicide cases, in severe cases of bullying, this is the issue. They reach a stage where they feel, I cannot change anything already. So like the story of Amanda Todd, it's just hopeless. No light at the end of the tunnel. So what's the point? Then they kill themselves, you know. Because there's no aspiration, there's no chance they think that things will get better. So I think as parents, as educators, as adults, we need to shift them to the position that, look, things will get better. And again, whether you share your own experiences, and look, this is the reality. Most school bullying happens in a certain phase. The most severe will be secondary school, right? The most severe forms of social bullying, cyberbullying, we're talking teenage years. But my point is that it's not forever, you know. In fact, in university, it tends to drop. So university environment is very different, you know, right? So we always tell, you know, children, hey, look, just hang in there, man. Look, I know it's tough. We've given you some ideas already, some strategies, but I know it's still difficult for you maybe. There's still students who are mean to you. There's still people who are talking behind your back. But I want to give you the hope, you know. Look, this is not forever. When we went through this, you know, we went through phases, 2-3 years, but, you know, after that, things got a lot better. We made friends. Going to university made a big difference. Starting work, you know, university and work is not the same, but I hope not, you know. But university and work is a very different environment. So, hey, look, I know it's difficult. I'm very upset as well. It's difficult, but you need to understand that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm going to be here. We're going to support you. We're going to give ideas. Each time something happens, let's discuss. So you always know you're not alone. You're not alone. So Amanda Todd's problem was she felt alone, isolated. So I think as parents' role, you know, you're not alone. And in fact, by the way, the most important tip when children, particularly new school, new environment, are struggling with bullying, the main issue is whether they have social support. Meaning, do they have friends in the school? Do they have friends of their own age in their neighborhood, community, their temples, their mosques, their church groups? You know, I mean, they must have friends. The club, the swimming club, the CCA you're doing, you know, co-curricular activity, the football club on Saturday morning. The most important thing for us as parents is give them opportunities to have friends. And that's why also don't be so conservative. Don't be, hey, after school come home. Don't go to your friend's house. And no friends over our house also. And no opportunities to socialize. Then mimang lah is very difficult, you know. Because the main factor In fact, usually when children join a new school, I don't even ask about academic performance. I'll say, okay, forget that one later. Most important thing is, do you have friends? So when I go around to my own school and I, check on the new students, that's the first question I ask the teachers. Hey, have they made friends or not? Because once they've got a circle of friends, 2, 3 good friends, it makes a very big difference. They don't feel so helpless and they don't feel so isolated. The severe cases that may lead to depression and suicide are the ones where really they are alone. And they have nobody to talk to. And that's, how to survive school when you have nobody to talk to? Most of us look back, how do we survive? We've got friends, isn't it? We went to talk to people. And of course, also the research shows that when you're in a group, you're less likely to be picked on, right? And targeted for bullying. So it's important to have that circle. And like I said, as parents, we should encourage it. Don't discourage. The more friends they make, the better. The more they are in a social network, of course, unless the friends are the bullies, right? In which case, okay, later on, our different set of slides, okay? But in this case, it's good for them to have friends, right? So, better tomorrow. So, just to summarize, for the situation where we're helping children who are victims of bullies, these are 4 shifts that I'm suggesting. Now, this is not exhaustive. There are many other really good ideas you can get from the internet. But I just wanted to share these ideas so that we can think about how we have to change the situation. And it's all mindset. It's changing perspective so that when I look at the problem differently and the situation differently, then I come out with practical solutions. So from blame to understanding, worthlessness to validation, helplessness to control, so that they feel I've got some control of my life. I can do some things. And lastly, we want to give them some hope, okay? Now, children who are bullying. Now, this one is harder because many parents don't have a problem with this. Good, my child is bullying, no problem. We are more worried when they are getting bullied because, hey, good lah, right? Good, strong, But I want to suggest again, we should be concerned. Remember, I showed you the earlier slides that, hey, look, bullies, they are not going to, you're setting them up for difficulty and failure later in life. So there are 6 shifts I want to share very quickly. The first is obviously from prejudice to understanding. We as parents and educators need to be very clear about the fact that prejudice is not accepted in our family. Prejudice is not accepted in our community. We don't ridicule people who are different. In fact, if anything, we should train our kids to say, hey, look, when there's a new kid who is a bit funny and, they're different because they speak a different language, they dress a bit differently, you should be the first one to go and make friends with them. And in fact, if you want to invite them back on Friday night, we can open up our house, ask them to come and play in the house during the weekend. You should be the first one to do it. And in fact, one of the best initiatives I've seen in, the school that we run, Help International School, the prefects are not policemen, right? So it's a very different concept. The prefects, they don't go and make you do duck walk and fine you and take your name down. There are 5 types of prefects, and the prefects' jobs are actually to be helpers and supporters. So you've got academic prefects, and they are the ones who help weaker students with their studies. So they'll go and identify, the teachers will pair them up, so they'll help them during recess time before school. Okay, can I help you? You're not good in maths, I'm better at maths. Okay, let me help, come, we do some coaching. Sports prefects, you've got tech prefects, help them with their iPads, laptops, all that. Social prefects. So all of the new students in the school, they will be approached and say, okay, come, I'll give you a school tour before school starts, and come introduce you to my batch of friends so that nobody is left behind. Now, I think that should be the approach, So rather than, this is the funny kid, this is the weird kid, and all of us, let's all make fun. The school needs to be very clear about it. This kind of behavior is not acceptable. We celebrate differences, and the more diverse we are, the better. So stop arguing about whose race is better, whose religion is better, whose gender is better. You should be learning from everybody. In fact, we always say the attitude is, you're so silly, we are so silly, All these arguments about which race is better, which language is better, which country is better. The best people are the ones who say, no need to argue about all of that. I want to learn from everybody, man. I want to learn from the Finnish and the Scandinavians and the Singaporeans and the Chinese and the Indians and the Malays and the Africans, and I'm the one who's going to be successful. Because I take all of the best elements of everybody's culture. So who's going to win in the end? The one who is, fighting, from their corner. Don't refuse to learn from everybody else. Or the person who is going to win in the new global age. Or the person who celebrates diversity. So I think we want to shift the mindset of our own children. To say, look, the more you learn, you go and make friends, man. You got a friend from Europe or Africa, excellent. You go and make friends with them. Because you probably never go to those countries later on. So this is an opportunity for you to go and learn about somebody who is different, all right? Number 2, impunity, of course, means they get away with it. And I think this is part of this campaign to say, you cannot get away with this behavior anymore. Bullies, people who bully should not be allowed to continue their behavior. But look, the focus of the punishment is not on the person, it's on the behavior. So, you know, we need to take a compassionate approach. It's not about vilifying the bully, labeling, okay, your bully means throw you out of school straight away forever, you're a bully. It's about saying the behavior is not to be condoned. So, I mean, like football, we say, tackle the ball, you cannot tackle the leg. You know, you need to focus on the behavior. So, we need to be very firm and strict. Schools at home, no bullying behavior allowed. I see you bullying your younger brother and sister, straight away, that behavior is not tolerated. You know, and same thing with school, right? So I believe we need to move, because too often, I think as we have observed, they've been allowed to do whatever they want. So whether we close one eye as adults, or whether in some cases we even encourage it, like in the case of ragging, which is institutionalized bullying. Ragging, all of these, the seniors go and teach the juniors the lesson. In some cases, even through prefects, in my observation, where the prefects are encouraged to go and humiliate kids. Then this is institutionalized bullying, you know. So we have to stand and say, no, no more. In our culture, in this Malaysian culture, we don't accept this kind of behavior anymore. This is not a Malaysian way of doing things. You know, none of our cultures talk about disrespect. So we don't allow this. All right, so focusing on the behavior and then safeguard. So one of the recommendations we make to schools is to say, you need to post teachers. So before school, after school, during recess time, which is when the bullying behavior is usually taking place. Classroom is a bit harder, unless the teacher is asleep, you know. But before and after, so our recommendation for schools is there should be duties, the teachers should be stationed so that there are no blind corners in the school. There's no, you know, the play area, nobody is watching, because that's when all the bullying is taking place. So the teacher should always be there. They have done that in Scandinavian countries, most of Europe, and this is the law. You have to be there. So that if anything sees anybody, a bystander comes and reports immediately, the teacher will walk over and say, look, this is not acceptable. Okay, stop this. Okay, you can continue to play, but this one, what you have done just now, that one is not acceptable behavior. Okay. So straight away, children know they are being supervised, and I think that's important. I mean, you can't, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds are not old enough to supervise themselves. They are not, you know, it's not the same as adults, all right? So I think this kind of vigilance is an example of very practical action that sends the message that we really don't tolerate bullying in this school. All right? Okay, good. Number 2, from destructive to constructive expressions. I remember I said a lot of bullies, the issue they have is they're angry with the whole world, or with their parents, or with the other people who bully them, and they want to take it out on somebody. And all of this pent-up rage needs to go somewhere. We call these destructive outlets. So hurt people, hurt the pets, hurt, you know. By the way, the signs of bullying, cruelty towards animals, cruelty towards others. Early danger signs of psychopathy and sociopathy, right? So, but some of the children, they're doing this because have to lepaskan geram somewhere, you know. So cannot scold the bully, cannot scold my family, so I have to scold somebody smaller. So we want to move this away from hurting people to, hey, do something. And this is the most effective, you know, by the way. So if you're talking about bully interventions, I can tell you, all of these discipline issues, bullying, gangsterism, you know, punting sekolah, mak rempit, all that, I can tell you, all the researchers will tell you the same thing. In any country in the world, the most effective teenage intervention, give them an outlet that they enjoy. Give them a passion. And all children have passions, definitely. You cannot tell me that a teenager doesn't have any interest. There's no such teenager in the world. So whether it is they want to be a rock musician, or whether they want to play football or futsal or basketball, be the next Michael Jordan or Stephen Curry, or want to do art, or want to, you know, be a YouTube star or do filming, all of the students have some passion. So what society and the schools, and I'm calling out to corporate partners here, we should be doing is give them those outlets. Because in a lot of communities, and so there are no outlets, you know, football, only the school team can play, the rest of us don't get to play. Art, very limited. So I mean, when you're giving them regular places, you know, so in the best schools, they are regular, after school you can stay back, do work, do art, work on a project. Do a science fair project. Every week there's a football league, free one in the kampong area, organized by parents. So every week there's a team. Then you have to train. Hey, you train in a team, all that. There's no time, man, all right, to hang around and go and bully people. Because you're focusing your discipline, attention, and energy on something that is my passion, because I really enjoy doing this. You know, so now I'm not saying this is going to get rid of all bullying. I mean, there are many solutions. But I can tell you, to me, this is the most powerful one. A lot of indisciplined cases, you talk about gangsterism. Why do they join the gang? Because what else is there to do? The gang is the entertainment. You understand or not? That is the peer group. That is so that's why when we ban, you know, okay, all the video arcades we close down, then no problem, then they go to the cyber cafes. You close down the cyber cafes now, mat rempit, you know, mat rempit ban now, bicycle also they can do. You understand? I mean, it's not the place. You can ban all the places in the world, but it's, if you're not giving them what we call a healthy outlet, meaning something constructive, you know, it's not illegal behavior, it's not like drugs or, you know, something destructive to myself or other people, then fine, you know. Hey, playing rock music is a lot better than, you know, going to do drugs or, you know, bullying other people, isn't it? You know, we may not like the music, but that's not the point. You don't need, it's not as though, you know, you have to buy their album, you know. The key thing is giving them an outlet that they enjoy. So in many countries in the world, that has become, all right, that has become the key thing, all right? Okay, this is a quote from a very famous German educator who says, the person born with talent they are meant to use will find greatest happiness. So give them something that they really enjoy, something that is fit for their talent. I tell you, a lot of this lepaskan geram problems will go away, because that becomes their outlet. Music, sports, you know, kick the ball, smash the shuttlecock for 1 hour, they don't feel angry anymore. You're giving them a healthy vent, you see. Right? Okay, so if your children are bullying, this is a good place to start. False power versus real power. We talk about false power is, you know, hurt people. You know, so some people define power and status as my ability to go and hurt people, be cruel to people. We as parents need to educate our children about what real power is. We say that's not real power. Real power is the ability to help people, bring positive change to people's life. Now that is real power. That one, being a bully, that's not real power. That's a sign of insecurity and weakness. So you want real power? Now, this is how you do it. So that, again, there needs to be a paradigm change, you know. And of course, look, I mean, you know, this other-centeredness is helping people. So many bullies have never experienced that. They've never been given any responsibilities, any opportunity to help people. So they don't understand the feeling. See, they are doing it because they feel good hurting people. I hurt people, I control over people. So I've got a sense of power. And that power is like an addiction. So it's giving them a more powerful feeling. When you help somebody, and there were a few videos where people tell stories, you know. You help a kid who is lonely. You help somebody pass an exam. The satisfaction you feel from that is a lot greater than the satisfaction you feel when you're bullying. So it's about giving them that opportunity to do that. This Chinese proverb, I think, just illustrates that. You know, when you give flowers, you know, I mean, you bless people, you'll be blessed yourself. All right? Peer pressure versus moral courage. I've talked a little bit about this already. The idea that, you know, we need to encourage our children to stand up for what they believe in. And this is really important, you know, and I tell you where this begins. This begins by teaching them to think morally. And that means explain to them why things are right or wrong. You know, so at a young age, don't just say, hey, Papa asks you to do, you just do. Why? There's no why, all right? You just do. No need to ask any reason. I ask you to do this, you just do. I mean, that kind of parenting approach, then it doesn't encourage the child to think. Basically, then the lesson they are learning is, hey, when somebody more powerful asks you to do something, you just do it. And next time when I am powerful, I also get to order people around, you know. And easier, more prone to peer pressure. So I know sometimes parents, if we want to break the will of the kid, we think it's the army, right? So we think the style of parenting, break you means like West Point. I ask you to do something, the answer is yes sir, no sir, no excuse sir. Right? You know? In fact, there's no sir, it's just yes sir. Right? But you see, the problem with that is then when you break the will, means you break the spirit of the child. When they are teenagers, broken spirit, they end up being very weak children, meaning their friends also ask them to do things they follow. Because they've been taught from a young age to just follow and conform with what other people are saying without thinking, you see. So I know some of you, you know, you think, my child, nuisance, my 7-year-old child, will actually, you know, logic, you know, they will argue with me, hey, Papa, Mommy, you said 8 p.m. is bedtime now, it's only 7:45, you know. And we don't like, we say, hey, don't talk back, all right, don't argue. But you see, the fact that they're thinking about what is right and wrong, and they're being assertive without being disrespectful, that's a good sign, you know. It means your child has spirit, you know, strong enough to stand up to other people. And they are the ones who will stand up, not just to bullies, but to their friends, to peer pressure. So when all their friends say, hey, let's take drugs, let's go and bully people, they will be the ones who say, no, hey, you do whatever you want, you make fun of me, so I don't care. Strong enough to stand up for my conviction. So all of us parents, if that's the kind of child you want, then the way we encourage that from young, that's important. Okay, you can't break the will of the child and then allow that to happen. Brokenness to healing, like I say, many of them are victims themselves, and what they need is love and acceptance. And I want to end with that, you know, because really that's the message. Remember I said, violence doesn't lead to good. Two wrongs don't meet a right, 100%. So I know sometimes as a society, we look at the bullies and we say, hey, let's punish them even more severely, man. Whack, whack, you know. And I understand our anger and response. And I certainly believe if it's very severe bullying, I mean loss of life, serious injuries, serial bullying, action should be taken. My own stand is that if the bullies are a real threat to the safety of other children and cannot be reformed, then expulsion and all that should be looked at options. But last option, you know, because most of them, I mean, you postpone the problem, in the end of the day, they're going to grow up to be what kind of citizens of Malaysia? You know? So if the goal, long-term goal is we want to build a better society, it's about reformation. And to me, the only way of bringing real healing is, it's about love, it's about understanding. You know, I mean, the only way to break the cycle of violence and hatred is not more violence and hatred. You don't fight fire with fire, you cannot. It will lead, I guarantee you, it will lead to just more hurt and more violence. The way to break the cycle is through kindness and compassion. Sorry, you can't see from there. It's kindness and compassion. I mean, Gandhi said an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. You know, I mean, so our goal in bullying intervention is not to take revenge. Okay, these people bullied, all right, let's now bully them, and you know. So as adults, let's shame them, put them on the internet, you know, then we become the bullies. So what kind of behavior are we modeling for our children? Then our children have learned, yeah, you know, fight fire, you know, when you're bullied, you bully back, man, right? But I mean, it never ends, you understand or not? Then you just start a new nuclear war, right? It just escalates, fight, fight, fight. So of course, I believe our children should be strong. They should be assertive. Being assertive, standing up for your rights is not the same thing as you go and whack the bully back, you know. You become a bully yourself. That's different, you know. So we encourage children to be strong, firm. But I mean, don't be cruel, right? So, I mean, they talk about love, you know, as the new culture and model. So I want to end with this point. This is really the key to everything. How we model love, tolerance, compassion, you know, as adults, that's really the most important intervention for the next generation. It's not just telling them what to do. Hey, you must be kind, you must be good. In my life, I need to model, and it's difficult. It's difficult. In my work, how my children see me treating my staff, my colleagues, talking to them on the phone, my maid, my other relatives, you know, my own children, my own wife, you know, your wife, your husbands. All of this, your children often do what you do, not what you say. So I think as adults, this is an opportunity for us to reflect. I mean, look, none of us is perfect. I mean, I'm not perfect, that's for sure. All of us have moments of weakness where the bullying will come out, because it's easier to bully and get things done than to be respectful and kind to people. But I'm just saying, all of us are not perfect, but we need to make an effort to become better, so that my children can learn the better way to deal with these things. Okay, so that's the key. We need to model kindness and compassion. Now I've got my email address, so if you have any questions, you know, feel free to address that. All right, so thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the session, and all the best with, you know, you and your children in your schools. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Goh, for the very informative and insightful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to the Q&A session. If you have a question for Dr. Goh, please raise your hands and my colleagues will be around to pass you a mic. Please state your name and where you're from. We would like to encourage you to keep to one question per person. Yes, Dr. Chee.
I'll just start the ball rolling. Sounds very Malaysian style. Okay. I know a lot of people here are young, but I'm slightly older, so I will just speak for myself. I'm grown up in a culture where you come from very traditional and very conservative parents, where of course the father rules. Okay, so I'm brought up in a culture where it's called one tight slap. One tight slap, everything's settled. Okay, but of course the world has changed, and you have advocated that more understanding, better way of talking to people, better way of talking to the bullies, that you shouldn't bully, you should have kindness. My time is one tight slap and you stop bullying. So how do we reconcile this situation of effectiveness and after many times trying to talk sense to this kid, stop bullying, be nice, don't bully, and he's still a bully, what should we do? Thanks.
No, I think that's a really good question, and again, it's a balance and a model. So again, I'm not advocating for let the bullies do whatever they want. So remember, one of my slides was no tolerance. No tolerance means there are consequences. So whether it is, now I'm not an advocate of let's whack them, so whether it's expulsion, whether it is, you cannot use your iPad for 3 months, which in many cases is worse than the one tight slap. For most kids, it's slap me, man, just slap me, all right. Don't take away my iPad, all right. Please, no, right, but my point is, I'm certainly not advocating for no punishment, right? There needs to be discipline and boundaries. But I guess my argument is that the nature of that punishment should not in turn humiliate or break the child. Because that's what bullying does, you see. Bullying, so whether it's physical violence or social bullying or, and so sometimes even as parents or teachers, if we're not careful, we can also become that kind of pattern. Be like, hey, you stupid, you lousy, so idiotic. What's wrong with you? Why can't you be more like, your brother's son, this, that, that kind of thing. So many times it becomes this, it's different, disciplining because I want you to change. I want you to change the way you think about something. You cannot tell a lie. You shouldn't bully. You shouldn't be cruel. The purpose of discipline, don't forget, and effective, positive punishment, we call it, is to change the child for the better. Not to break the child, because I'm just angry. You're so lousy. Why you frustrate me so much? Whack, So I think we need to be careful. And so I agree. Look, I'm not blaming our parents, grandparents. Different age, they didn't know. But we have no excuse because we are growing up in a world where we have access to information. And I'm just saying there's a better way, you see, There's a better way, and so it's firm. It's still discipline. It's still no nonsense. If you do this, there are consequences. But I'm just saying how we intervene and even discipline a child. We need to be careful that it's not us lepaskan geram. It's not just I'm angry and you happen to be there. It needs to be done with love and compassion, and in a way that protects the dignity of the humanity of the child. And that's the issue with bullying, isn't it? Bullying is I don't treat you like a human being anymore. I don't really care. I don't see you as a person anymore. I don't care about how you feel or think, and so I just whack, So whether it's cyberbullying or social bullying, and that's the problem. So I think, look, we all love our children, all of us do. We all make mistakes. I'm certainly not the perfect parent, but I think we all agree. Right? We don't want to break or take away the dignity of our children, isn't it? So I think, of course, punish. By all means. Schools should punish, parents should punish. But I think the nature of the punishment should be aimed towards constructive change, But also, that's why this is the stick and the carrot, We always advocate for, so the bullies, we talk about short-term expulsion, we talk about, bringing parents in, we talk about, okay, look, you're in the school football team, so because of this bullying, you're suspended for 1 month, so there are consequences. But at the same time, it's also the counseling. If somebody's sitting down, the bullies say, do you even understand why you're bullying? And I can tell you in many cases, the 15, 16-year-old doesn't know why they're indulging in that behavior. Remember all those reasons I've talked about. Maybe I'm just angry. Maybe I just want to lash out. Maybe I'm just so insecure. Very unpopular. So the bullying is my only way of claim to fame in the school. So this is, look, they are not 35-year-old men and women. That one is different. The 35-year-old, 40-year-old still indulge in bullying behavior, that one I've got less patience for. you know. But you understand, these are 13-year-olds, these are 15-year-olds, these are people who are still, they don't understand, you know. Now, I'm not saying no consequence, so all enough to take the consequences, but not to break them. Like I say, our purpose of punishment is not to kill them off so that they will never be able to rise up again, isn't it? And a lot of bullies, I mean, I interviewed people who are reformed, so people who are 40, 50-year-olds who were bullies before. Then you go back and ask, what happened to change? And usually it was not just the punishment, usually it was somebody that helped me understand, why bullying is not the way to solve my problems. And what were my problems in the first place? So I didn't even understand until, somebody, changed my perspective. So I realized, yeah, actually, I'm just angry. I'm just so angry about life. I'm just angry my parents don't spend time with me. I'm just angry, all of these frustrations. And that's why I'm cruel. That's why I go on the internet and go and troll people. And it's just a way of, relieving some of this frustration. So fine, then you understand. But can be redeemed, right? So I would say there's a balance, right? I think there's a good balance. Punishment, discipline, firmness, but with the compassion that says, look, I've not given up on you, right? I've not given up on you. And I think good educators, principals, teachers, parents, that's what they do. They strike that balance. So I still love you, but you need to learn consequences, but let's work together, because you're not an evil person. You have done an evil thing, the behavior is not good and acceptable, and you need to learn cruelty. In some Scandinavian countries, one of the interventions they use is something called shared concern, which there are a lot of things I don't have time to talk about. Shared concern, you can Google it. It's like Truth and Reconciliation Committee in South Africa. The bully is brought by the school to meet with the victim. And the victim is given an opportunity to share, okay, this is how you made me feel, this is what happened. And the bullies have to make amends. Now, of course, not easy to do. That one really takes a skillful mediator. But a lot of times they found it, because then the bully is confronted with, many times you don't understand what you're doing to other people. And you are trying to encourage that empathy. You have to look the victim in their face, and then you understand. So do you feel good? Do you still feel big? Do you still feel so happy that you've done this to somebody else? So only a psychopath, only a sociopath will sit there and go, I don't care, So most bullies are still human beings, When confronted with what they have done, most of them will feel something. So all of these are examples of this discipline with compassion, because the long-term goal is we want to change their mindset. Right? So that we don't postpone the problem, and in the end, postpone, expel, just expel, keep expelling, and then, in 10 years, what will happen? All of them are now 25, 30-year-old males and females in Malaysian society, isn't it? Who have not learned anything. So I think, again, we are talking bigger picture. We want to change the nation for the better. We have to start here. In fact, better to start when they are young. A lot harder to change when they are older. So that would be all. Thank you, Doctor.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Koh. I'm not a founder, but a person that take over kindergarten. I'm a preschooler principal. Just now you did mention that a school is supposed to modeling an ideal society. What if the kids already started to know that whatever we had been provided to them is actually slightly contradicted to what they've been experienced? Like we try to explain and what we should modeling since they're young. Sure. But to them, it's very hard to convince because they've been experiencing certain things from other situations or environment. How can we deal with this?
Maybe, I think that's a good question, but could you give me an example so I better understand what are some of these behaviors that they are seeing outside of the kindergarten that may be contradictory to what you're trying to model?
Okay, for an example, when we say we show love, right? We share toys and all that. Even though the elders, they want, you trying to get something from the elders, yeah. But if that elder can't provide to you, and then you have to use the magic word politely and all that, they say no, it doesn't work. They just say that the elder should have the right and all the.
So older child, you're saying?
Yeah,
so
no,
older
they
child,
are the younger one. They are the younger one, but they say that love doesn't work in their life or in the family.
But you see, in that circumstance, then the older child is actually should be the target of the intervention, isn't it?
So they are the victims.
But so I would say, look, children are smart and intelligent and adaptive enough. I can tell you from evolutionary psychology, they understand, right, how the real world works. You don't need to, they know what is going on outside. But my point is, in the early stage of life, a lot of their social experiences are in the preschool, isn't it? Are in the kindergarten. So you shouldn't stop trying to still impose certain values. So the value, for example, in that instance would be, okay, we share, we are respectful. So even when we say, no, sorry, I'm playing with the Lego, please, can I have another 10 minutes and then you can play with it. Even a no also is done respectfully. So I think all of that, of course, takes time. It's not overnight, isn't it? It's not like tomorrow all of them become angels. That's not realistic, all right? All of us were little terrorists once in a while, But I think it's about you don't give up, you don't compromise what you're trying to build in terms of value education. So the teachers and the students in the school are still modeling. So adults meaning the way you are also disciplining the children and how you say no. So when the child comes to you with request, teacher, I want this, can I bring my toy, I want to go home early. And even when we say no, it's not, what a stupid question, how dare you ask me, go and sit down, right? We are modeling how you talk to people, right? I think continue, and it's not going to be perfect because we don't live in a perfect world. And our children are certainly not perfect, and our students are not perfect, and we are not perfect. But it doesn't stop you from trying, So that in a society, I'll give you an example. I've visited a lot of schools, as part of my work as a psychologist. So of course, I've gone to schools where, like speech day, so I have to come and deliver the speech. And of course, there are some schools where, okay, everybody is talking, and when the VIPs come in, you hear shouts like, hey, everyone, shut up! And like, concentration camp style, like 50 prefects all going, hey, So then very quiet. So throughout my whole speech, everybody is like, can hear a pin drop. So, okay, so that's one, let's call that model one, right? The fear model, as in, shut up because I told you to shut up, all right, And anybody who is caught, teacher drag them out here, and Okay. Then I've gone to schools also. Malaysia and other parts of the world where I've come into a room, and everybody's talking, and okay, now Dr. Goh is ready to give his speech, and the principal just goes and says, okay, look, very quiet and no shouting. Students, it's time to begin. Like 5 seconds, like this, 5 seconds stop, So I was asking them later, how on earth did you do that? These are like primary school kids. No shouting, that school, no prefects. So I said, how do you do this? And they said, look, very simple. It takes a while. It takes a whole, months and years, but we created a culture where the focus in this school is respect. So why do you not speak when somebody else is speaking? Because it is disrespectful. So it took a while. The younger kids are still, but after a few years, what happens is then the whole school understands. So no need to shout, no fear, because they understand, why this value is important. And this is about civic consciousness. This is about shared space. When all of us are sharing a common space, a common area, common toilets, common canteen, we don't dirty, we clean up after, all of these are basic civic consciousness things, right? How people live together and, treating people with respect is part of the rules, part of the value. So to me, that approach blew me away, and that's something we're trying. So we say, look, it shouldn't be out of fear, because you train children just to, I shout at you, you keep quiet. It's not really changed your value system at all, The moment the teacher leaves, you're going to be talking again. So it's not, so again, it's pointless. The only lesson you've learned is, okay, just don't get caught because you get whacked, right? It's not, okay, I should respect fellow human beings, and that, none of that is actually inculcated. So I think, to me, the second model is what we should be doing. It is values, but the children need to understand why. Why don't do this? Why do this? Not just teachers said, because the rules are on the board, everybody follow. And it takes a while, because that approach is harder. It's a lot easier to just shout and make everybody keep quiet. But I think if we're in the business of education, and our role is changing mindsets, then that is the way to go. And we've seen, again, I've seen with my own eyes, schools, preschools, kindergarten, that have been able to do it. So I just want to encourage you, don't give up, you have to keep trying. Okay?
I have a question as a parent. how do we recognize the symptoms of a child being bullied or whether the child is being a bully?
Okay. Okay, so let me start with the symptoms of a child being bullied first. So let's assume it's in school, right? So one of these are what we call red flags, and not all cases will have the same red flags, but they are different warning signs. So one of the most common ones is excuse, I don't want to go to school. You know, I so a bit sick, I'm this and that. So the child is trying to avoid school as much as possible. Or very clear unhappiness with school. You know, they go to school, you have to come back also very unhappy. Now, of course, this is just one sign. That may be other things also. Maybe they just don't enjoy school, you know, or they're not enjoying their lessons. But that's the first sign. So this school avoidance, we call it. The number one symptom of a victim of bullying is school avoidance. Number two, if it's physical bullying, you see marks. So when, you know, young children, you bathe them, all that, you actually see their physical marks. Number three, they lose things. Oh, why is your pencil box? Oh, I forgot it. I forgot. Because usually that's a sign of it's being stolen, right? It's being taken away. Oh, you didn't eat, how come? Oh, I lost my lunch money. So you know, if you put all of the different things together, it may be not forgetfulness. So at the beginning, you may think, this child is just very careless. But if this is becoming repeated, it may be they're covering, because remember, the child will not tell you usually, actually my friends went and stole it, because it's an embarrassment to them. So it's easier for them to admit, I just lost it. You know, so lose the lunch money, they are not you know. I think other signs will be, you know, very severe cases, will be things like cannot sleep at night, high stress, losing weight, because those are signs already that they are, you know, it may be anxiety, panic attacks, you know, maybe even in teenagers, all that, maybe even depressive signs, withdrawal, like I say, they have no more friends, nobody comes around, they don't seem to be Facebooking with anybody, they don't seem to be calling anybody. Weekends, 15, 16-year-old weekends, you expect them to be going out with somebody, which is a good sign. Hey, Mom, I'm going to the shopping mall, we're going to watch Black Panther together, you know, that kind of thing, that's a good sign. Or can two of my friends come over, they want to do some project, good, you know, so all of this. But if there's none of that, meaning, how come, you know, you're talking to nobody? You know, you seem to be cut off. These are, I think, some red flags that we observe in cases where they're being isolated, for example, right? So I think these are some danger signs. Signs that your child is a bully is harder. Okay? They are not, well, I guess the opposite, they've got a lot of things in their bag. I'm wondering, how did they get all of these things? So who gave you this iPad? All right? But more seriously, I think usually, to be honest, it's more difficult to spot signs that the child is bullying outside from you will get a report. Right? Meaning the school will, so usually it's more direct because you don't see the depressive signs, they are got lots of friends, this and that. So you don't see those indirect warning signs. You know? So I would say, if there's any suspicion, if the school, you know, I mean, if they are monitoring, don't worry, you will get the call. Right? You know, that look, your son has been or your daughter has been, you know, they have been doing this, and then you act. I should add one more thing for the victims. Suddenly a change in the school academic performance. So let's say if they were actually doing their all the while a B student, suddenly this semester for whatever reason is dipped to a D. Now of course if they've always been a D student, that one is different. Then they just, you know, maybe this is not their favorite subject. But in this case, what you're looking at is for changes. See, all of these things, they are changes. You used to enjoy school, now you don't enjoy anymore. You used to be, you know, very playful, a lot of friends, now you seem isolated. Last time you used to be happy, but now there's a change in mood. When you come around the house, you know, you really, you know, you're not looking forward to school, you hate it. So when you look at these changes, sudden changes, these are warning signs. Now it doesn't mean, by the way, your child is definitely being bullied. There are other explanations. I mean, this is like you're doing a medical diagnosis, right? So I mean, a running nose can mean 5, 10 different things. So I'm just saying though, these are red flags. Like when you put these things together, they are just warning. Like just have a talk with your child. Or if you don't think your child is speaking, then you might want to just have a quick chat with their homeroom teacher, their, you know, the form teacher. Just say, I just want to check, you know, are they all right? Do you notice anything in the school, in playground time, all that recess? Are they playing with other children? So some teachers will be happy to speak with you and say, yeah, actually I've noticed, you know, they seem to be alone, and you know. So you want to corroborate, like again, like medical, like, you know, you just from 1 or 2 symptoms, you still have to do other checks. A bit more investigation before you jump to any conclusions, all right? Okay. Yes, sorry. Is there time for any more questions?
Yeah, we do.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you very much. I would like to express my gratitude for this very insightful talk, and I've learned so much. I'm an educator in school, and in my experiences I've been in the receiving end. I mean, in the situation where you get to see both sides, both victims and bullying. And most of the time, it's the students who are the victims who always say, "Teacher, someone bully me," instead of the bully who comes, "Teacher, I bully someone." Nobody will come to tell you, "I bully someone." So, as an educator, in the first few minutes, my question is, who deserves my attention, the bully or the victim first? Do I say, if someone wants to report, as a student reports to me that I am bullied by someone, do I put the student away and confront the victim, the bully? Or I spend some first few minutes with the victim first and then go deal with the bully?
Just to give me a sense, what kind of age groups are you looking at? 7, 8, 10, 12, 15, 17? Primary, okay. I think, okay, let me give you a few rules of thumb, but because different situations are different, so you have to make an assessment. I think the first rule of thumb is always safety of all of the people involved. So of course, if this is like, something is happening right now, to the victim, and you need to stop the bullying behavior, as in a bystander runs in and says, "Hey sir, somebody is beating somebody up, or 3 kids are beating," then of course, you go out there and your focus is on stopping the behavior, right? And the focus is on, bringing the victim and making sure they're in a safe place, whether it's in the school nurse office or the counseling room or the principal's office, somewhere safe where nobody can touch them, and then separating. But I wouldn't say that, it's about who gets the attention first. I think it's about judging the safety of the victim first. And so if the victim is very emotionally distressed and crying all that, then obviously then they would probably need your attention first. But look, I mean, it's not something that is so time sensitive. It's not like putting out a fire, You have to do it in this sequence, and then if not, wrong sequence means, basically the whole thing is messed up. I think it's about identifying the parties, number one, spending time with the different parties. So assuming that you're the one taking over this case, all right, or whether you're referring it to somebody. So I'm not sure the protocols in your school. Most schools have very clear protocols, and they will actually label levels of behavior. So if this case, is physical fighting, okay, this one is deputy principal. If it is, okay, some mild teasing and pushing around but no serious injury, class teacher can handle. So again, I would say your school probably has a protocol which follows, but let's assume you are the one that is dealing with it. So the protocol states you have to handle it, okay? I would say, number one, it's not typical to handle both parties at the same time. So usually, I mean, you're not the only teacher there. So usually, the situation will be, if it's a live, meaning it's not cyberbullying at home, it's they were fighting 2 minutes ago, and you've separated, the 3 bullies from the boy. Usually, you would get a partner teacher to say, okay, look, I want to spend some time with the 3 bullies, because the behavior needs to be addressed immediately. So, okay, take them to room number 1. And for the victim, all right, can another teacher, can you please help me? Just be with her and make sure she's all right. So it's not, it shouldn't be one teacher having to, okay, wait here for 2 minutes, And look, I mean, assuming it's not happening every day among all 500 children at the same time, you probably have enough teachers. That's why, I advocated for teachers on duty. So during recess time and all of these, before, after school, there always should be a team of teachers on duty. And usually the duty teachers can do, but also then you've got the counseling teachers and the home teachers, all that around. And so you shouldn't need to divide time. Okay? Now, that's phase 1. That's immediately on the ground. Phase 2 will be, okay, now, does the victim need follow-up counseling? Do the bullies need, like I said, disciplining? So all of that, that's not in the first 1 hour. The bullies, and usually there's an investigation, case report. You can't just punish straight away. We need, okay, look, first thing first, there's enough evidence, the principal is going to call in your parents. Then sit down with the parents and the bully. We go through, okay, let's talk through this, what needs to be done. So again, in my experience, the method is very systematic. It's not just timba, left, right, center. Most schools, good schools, have a very, very meaningful process and a constructive process. But I would say, it's not about who needs you first, lah. You know, it's not all cases are not all the same. So you will need to judge who needs the attention immediately. So like I say, if the victim is obviously in distress, then spend some time with him or her. If the bullies are the ones who are, you know, dangerous because, you know, they are so upset by being called into the office that they are causing disruption, then somebody needs to be with them. I mean, they can't just be let loose in the playground to go and find somebody else, you know. So in some cases, they need to be brought in and, okay, you stay in this room and somebody's going to sit with you here while waiting for your parents to come. Okay, so I would, again, hard for me to imagine, but that would be my rule of thumb, all right? Okay.
Shall we take 2 more questions from the floor?
Morning, Dr. Goh. My name is Felix. I'm a new parent. Okay, so when it comes to parenting, as Asians, we tend to be known for being tough parenting.
Sure.
Okay, so like for example, back in the days, our grandparents would say things like, "Oh, the parents would just let them go into the jungle, and then, you know, they don't have to worry about getting hurt or what." So when it comes to being bullied in school, they're just like, "Oh, they can take care of themselves and all that." So, but we would think like back in the days we don't have things like social media, and we don't have cyber bullying and all of that. So it's not a valid comparison. But we are still concerned because I'm a new parent. I'm concerned if we are raising excuse me, if we are raising our children to be a snowflake generation, they call it. Are we holding their hands too much? Are we impeding their development to be more independent, self-reliant, taking care of themselves? So what is your thought on this?
Yeah, I would say very simple. I believe in being firm and not coddling them. And the first thing is, don't give them tuition. You want to, you know, talk jungle. Of course, in those days, tough was go and survive in the jungle. How many parents here dare to let your children fail in school? Now that is coddling them. So I believe in being very tough, allowing children to grow. But what does that mean, you see? We don't allow them to grow because we don't allow them to go to overnight camps. We don't allow them to clean up their own room. We don't allow them, you know. I mean, it's not jungle anymore. Like. Jungle by all means send, all right? You know. But to me, how many parents are willing to allow your child, okay, you study for yourself and you don't do your homework, it's not my problem. Now that is independence. You see, that is independence. So many of our children, which I teach in university now, can't even do their own stuff. They're 21 years old, all right? They need to be reminded to read books, which I refuse to do. I don't give any reminders of exams or assignment. I say, it's in the course outline, you're an adult, read it. So my point is, I agree, 100%. I'm not in favor of a snowflake generation. But you see, okay, so now let's, you know, so generally I make a comment like this, as appropriate, as they grow up, more independence and more responsibility. So I would, for example, in another parenting seminar, I would say, by 10 and 11, they do their own homework. Parents, I don't remind them at all. You don't do, not my problem. By 12, 13, they decide on their academic streams and they decide whether they want to do tuition for weaker subjects and what they want to study, they monitor. By 13, 14, parents should be just getting KPI progress reports every quarter, you know. I'm not monitoring you every day because 13, 14, I mean, from 12, I don't monitor my daughter anymore. Basically, she looks after her own education. I come and advise her as an external consultant. From time to time, I guide. If she needs help, I'm willing to help, no issue. But my point is, I'm not going to micromanage anymore. So I agree, 100%. And these outdoor activities, climbing trees, getting dirty, playing football, all of this, good. I agree, 100%. But we have to understand, right? Appropriate exposure to independence and do it yourself and learning to clean up and take responsibility also has boundaries in what is appropriate and what is not. And of course, the older they become, the boundaries become bigger, right? So I mean, 7 years old, you don't expect them to go and, I don't know, climb tahan by themselves and come down, maybe 15, right? Coming back to the issue of bullying, it's the same principle. So remember I said earlier, there are some situations where you as a parent have to assess and say, okay, look, I think this situation, I can give advice. I will encourage you, I will love you. I mean, loving is not coddling, not the same thing, isn't it? So I can love you. Hey, you are a good person. Don't let other people make you feel stupid and dumb. I mean, you're my son, you're my daughter. That's not the same as I'm going to spoil you, right? Correct or not? In the end, you still have to go and wash your own dishes. You have to still go and do your own homework. You still, I mean, you know, teachers scold you for not doing work. That one, I'm not going to protect you. So I'm not saying it's the same thing, but unconditional love, meaning you always know, as my son, you are my son. And the whole world may be cruel to you, but I still love you, and I still accept you, and I still support you. Now, that's not the same thing, isn't it? It doesn't mean I don't discipline you. So that's number one. Number two also is, so again, let's say cyberbullying, your 13, 14-year-old daughter or son, you know, unanimously being trolled by 100 people. That one is not, you know, it's not appropriate to then go and say, hey, not my problem, that one you go and fight yourself, you know. Because obviously, even an adult in that situation, that's not a fair fight. So I think as a parent, you're always making decisions about this one, can you handle yourself? Or this one, I think I need to step in. Because at this age, you know, it's not reasonable to expect you to be able to go and, you know, deal with this, because obviously whether maybe the school is not dealing with it, or your friends are not seeing it, or whatever it is. So I, as a parent, need to step in, because this is a danger to you and to other people. So of course, step in. You know, so again, as parents, it's like leaders, decision makers, CEOs. Every day you have to make decisions. There's no easy rule one. You have to judge the situation and make a decision, intervene or don't intervene. So I would say that's my comment. So 100% I agree with you. Don't raise a snowflake. We are too protective. Way too protective, you know. But like I say, in different areas, you know. To me, the academics is the #1 area where we are overprotective. And that's why, you know, they are all cannot study for themselves, cannot work for themselves, because all the while they have been spoon-fed by us. You know, and so that's why 21 years old, like I say, can't even do homework because my mommy didn't tell me, you know. Papa did, you know, that kind of, you know. So how to survive, man, all right, you know. Right? So I agree. And independence and responsibility, my fellow parents, this is hard for me also, because I'm a perfectionist, I'm high standards one, means letting go, you know. It's messy parenting, because you let them eat by themselves, they're going to make a mess. So are you prepared for that? Easier to feed, what? You feed them, then no mess, you know? But that's the issue. You allow people, you know, the older they become, you allow them to make decisions and all, it's going to be messy. So for example, if your 18-year-old is not even allowed to choose her own friends, don't even talk boyfriend, right? You know. Friends also, no, cannot make friends with this person. Then when they're 22 years old in university in the UK, you think they can make decisions? No way. If you don't even allow them to, you know, at 15, 16, they can't even pick their toothpaste or their shirt to wear, you think at 25 they can make a decision about careers? About which company to work for? Who to marry, you know? So I think that's a really good point. So don't misjudge me, you know, I'm certainly not for snowflakes. It's about helping them grow up, giving them challenges, you know, allowing them to face hardships, but in appropriate doses. You know, it's still safety first, isn't it? Yeah, I'm not going to allow my children to be threatened, to do something that is life-threatening, you know, I mean, just for the sake of, tough parenting. I mean, that's abusive already, that's negligent. I'm just being a negligent parent, you know, I'm being a lazy parent. That's not the same thing as tough love, you know. And in most cases, let's be honest, it's more absent parenting. It's not so much, you see, tough love, all that, that's an excuse. It's more, I don't have time for you, actually. Because I got, don't know, 101 things at work and all kinds of things, projects to manage. So this one, I don't even know it's happening because I'm not spending time with my children. Right? So I think this is where Asian and Western culture needs to come to some middle, right? You know, a lot of times we, you know, I mean, our stereotype is Asian culture very tough, Western culture permissive. That's not true, you know. It's just both Asian and Western cultures are permissive and strict about different things. There are a lot of things we allow our kids to do that a Western parent will never allow their children to do. So again, it's about learning best practices, and to me, it's about the balance, you know, right? Okay, good. I hope that answers the question. So jungle, okay, all right, let them go in.
We'll take one last question from the floor.
Right. Thank you. My name is Kalin. I'm from School of Monash. All right, I have a question. So many schools and universities are aware on talks about mental health and anti-bully campaigns. Yet there are many students who are afraid to go to counseling, and their bullies walk away freely.
You're afraid to go to?
Counseling.
Counseling, okay.
Okay.
The victims are afraid to go to counseling.
Victims themselves, yeah.
Okay.
Is there an organization who supports anti-bullying and is currently active to protect the victims?
That's a good question, you know. Not that I don't know of an NGO or an organization that specializes in this alone. I mean, there are obviously organizations that offer counseling, mental health services out of the universities, but not an organization that just focuses on bullying, you know. But look, I think you've raised an important question, which is, okay, look, again, I think what an institution can do, so universities, schools and all of that, what they can do is provide access to help. All right, so whether it's, and most are in Monash and most universities and all that will have a counseling unit, mental health unit. Same thing with schools. I mean, you've got your counseling staff there and all that. I think in the end though, the decision of whether I as a victim wants to seek help, I mean, that's still my call, isn't it? Nobody can force me to go. Now, what I think maybe society can do to help the situation is to destigmatize the act of going for counseling. Because often it's not, you know, I mean, look, most counseling units anyway, they're very smart. They will locate it somewhere in the university or the school that nobody can see one, you know. I know our counseling is in the middle of nowhere one, so I mean, nobody will see you going there, and that's the whole point. I mean, it's not like right next to the cafeteria where, you know, 5,000 people can see. And some counseling units are also very good. They've aligned it with career counseling and student activities and counseling. So you go in there also, nobody knows why you're going in there for. So all of these are very creative solutions. I remember, in fact, 7-8 years ago, I spoke at a conference in Monash on setting up counseling units. And this was one of the things we talked about, which is, okay, how do you destigmatize? Because let's be honest, Malaysian culture, you know, going to see a counselor is like, you know, it's the worst thing in the world, right? You know, it's an admittance of weakness and all kinds of things, hanging up dirty laundry in public kind of mentality. So how do we change that? So I mean, you know, how do we create spaces where people feel safe? You know, how do we change the mindset of people to say, hey, look, you're sick, you go and see a doctor. What's the big deal? I mean, does anybody feel embarrassed? If I've got a flu, I go and see a doctor because I need help. In this case, I'm dealing with some issue in my life, I go and see a counselor. I mean, nothing is no bad reflection on me. So I think as parents, we also need to echo that, as opposed to, hey, you know, this other relative of ours went to Tanjung Rambutan, you know, crazy man, this fella, you know what I mean? So I mean, that kind of talk, right, in the household, memang lah, of course the children will go, okay, yeah, thank you. So, any problems with you in school? You know, I'm okay, I'm fine, all right, you know. I mean, so I think we need to send the message to like anything, like you need an expert, you go and see them, you need a haircut, you don't cut yourself, you know. So, getting help from an expert that can give a certain service for counseling is no different to anything else. No different to a hairdresser, your accountant, your lawyer, your doctor. So I think once we demystify and say, look, it's nothing, it's just help, like getting a consultant, what's the big deal? Done. Right? Then I think the next generation would feel maybe safer. But you can't force, you know, that's my point. You know, there's no school or campaign that forces you to go and see counseling. I mean, that makes it even worse. So I think it's just about creating an environment where people don't feel ashamed or afraid to actually go and seek help. All right, good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Goh, for attending to our audience's questions. With that, we have come to the end of today's StarLIVE session. Once again, a big thank you and a round of applause to Dr. Goh for sparing your time for today's StarLIVE session. Ladies and gentlemen, before you head off for refreshments outside, I would like to invite all of you to be part of the Stand Together campaign. If you look at the bunting on my right, the one in the center, you can pledge your support by visiting the website. It's www.standtogether.my, or like our Facebook page. You can search for Stand Together, like the page and share it with your friends and family. Thank you for being part of this morning's event, and we hope to see you again at the next StarLIVE session. Don't forget to pass your survey forms as you exit. Thank you very much and have a great day ahead.